So you're starting to do a few more presentations and you're looking for a way to collect feedback so that you can improve as a presenter or as a speaker. On this video, I'm going to show you some do's and don'ts of how to collect feedback from audiences. Hey, this is Doug Stannard with Fearless Presentations, the fastest, easiest way to eliminate public speaking fear. On this video, we're going to talk about some do's and don'ts of feedback and how to elicit or solicit feedback in order to improve as a presenter. In fact, I'm going to break this into two videos. The first video on this one, we're going to talk about the don'ts. We're going to talk about some of the things that traditionally people use for feedback that don't necessarily work. And on the next video, I'm going to give you some of my favorite ways to elicit feedback so that you get better results. So one of the major things that people will sometimes do is they'll get exit surveys or they'll distribute exit surveys after they speak. The problem with that, though, is that a lot of times those exit surveys will kind of tell you how the audience liked you, but they're not really going to assess your presentation skills. They're not going to really help you improve your presentation skills. So I'll give you a good example of how exit surveys can sometimes be just a little off. When I first started teaching other instructors how to teach the Fearless Presentations class, I used exit surveys as a way to determine how well these instructors were doing. And throughout the first few years of Fearless Presentations, I mean, we just, the results that we were getting were kind of off the charts. 5 stars, 5 stars, 5 stars, 5 stars, 5 stars. And we always have, by the way. We've always gotten really, really good results like that. However, somewhere after about 3 or 4 years, I had a guy that had been teaching with me for quite a while who, after he finished one of his classes, I got a phone call just out of the blue from one of his class members that had a complaint. And it wasn't really a dramatic complaint. It was just like, we'd never had one before. So it was kind of out of the blue. And I went back and looked at this guy's exit surveys, the instructor's exit surveys, and they were all phenomenal. I'm like, okay, well, maybe that's just an anomaly. Well, a couple months later, I got another one. And so I knew that something was wrong because, like I said, we had never received any complaints ever. And now all of a sudden we'd gotten these 2 complaints in a very short period of time. So I flew out and audited one of his classes, and I noticed that he was making some dramatic errors in the way that he was teaching the class. It was totally different from what I had taught him to do a few years back. And what I kind of figured out was that those exit surveys were just telling me how the class members liked him. They weren't really judging how well he was doing as a presenter or as an instructor. And so that's really one of the flaws with exit surveys. And that's one of the reasons why we started doing different techniques that we'll talk about on the next video as ways to get better feedback after a presentation. So the second type of feedback that we will sometimes get is from friends or coworkers or bosses, somebody around the office that will run our presentation by first. And by the way, this is a fantastic way to get feedback from folks. The problem is the type of feedback that they typically give us, the verbal feedback. A lot of times these well-meaning friends, these well-meaning coworkers, they want to help us. So they'll give us little tips to help us improve. And sometimes those little tips will kind of take us in the wrong direction. Good example of this would be, let's say for instance, that if I get nervous, I might talk faster. Well, that's not necessarily a bad thing because that adds energy and enthusiasm to our presentation. If I try to talk slower though, what sometimes happens is that actually makes me more nervous. And now the nervousness that I was presenting to the audience in a really positive way, that fast, upbeat speed, is now going to manifest itself in the shaky hands and the sweaty palms and losing our train of thought and different things like that that may be a little bit more dramatic when we're speaking. And so sometimes those little subtle adjustments that the friends or coworkers are telling us can actually take us down the wrong path. The analogy I like to use here is it's kind of like if your check engine light comes on your car. I mean, it's real easy to get that check engine light to go off. All you have to do is just climb underneath the dashboard of your car, take a pair of snips and snip the line, and that light will go off. The problem though is that the thing that was causing the light to come on, the problem with your engine is still there and it's going to get worse and worse and worse. So fixing a symptom doesn't necessarily caused what manifested the symptom to go away. And so it's much better to focus on improving your skills in public speaking and reducing that nervousness than try to fix symptoms. The third type of thing that people will sometimes use to get feedback is videoing themselves. So especially with today's technology, you can just take your smartphone, put it up on a tripod, record yourself doing a video, and then watch that as a way to improve your performance. The worst part about that, though, is that we are our own worst critics. I mean, you will nitpick every negative thing that you do in the video. And a lot of times when you focus on the negative, you'll actually end up getting more of it. So it's much better if you're going to be doing videotape feedback to get a coach or somebody that's a professional, somebody that can help keep you on the positive in order to get better feedback with that. So anyway, so those are the three things that traditionally people will do to get feedback, and each one of those things has their own challenges. On the next video, I'm going to show you some of my favorite ways to get feedback that will help you improve your confidence pretty dramatically every time you use them.